Hello everyone, welcome back to CryptoCache. Thank you so much for joining me here. We're going to take a quick look at Loopring, and before we do, we always look at Bitcoin first, get a baseline of the market, and I think it's equally as important to understand that here today, because it's a bit on the rise, right? Now, we don't want to get ahead of ourselves. 58,000 still hasn't officially been broken. It needs to close in the one-day candlestick to ensure that that is not considered a resistance, all right? So bear that in mind. Trying to get too hyped up with a $2,000 increase from Bitcoin, because it's still within that lower channel, and we're going to have to see how it responds to the price action here soon. But as we can see, the death cross essentially came to fruition here, and we are going to see what the recovery looks like. It might recover, it might go sideways. If nothing else, I'm confident that you likely dollar cost averaged right between 56 and 58,000. So in case the price were to be moving on up right now, we should be in good shape to be able to have a better average, right? At least me and my patrons, we did that. It was a recommendation to consider DCA in between 56, 58, and 52 to 54 if that ever happens, right? So just note, Bitcoin's not in bad shape. It's definitely recovering, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we're out of the doghouse yet, because we need to have 58,000 close in the one-day candlestick to ensure that that's not a resistance, okay? Bear that in mind. It has close above. All right, so let's take a look at Loopring here. Oh, and just before we do, a quick disclaimer, not a financial advisor. This is for educational purposes. And actually what's cool about that is not even a disclaimer, because I just love teaching people how to become better traders, right? So ultimately, I have a trading community built with that specific purpose to help you become better. I share signals, which are basically trades that I'm taking with every single member that I take or that I have, of course, and I send that out through a signal through Cornix, which is an automated trading bot. You can one-click follow if you'd like. So really cool situation. Check that out. I've actually got an instructional video so you kind of know what that entails. So let's go ahead and take a look at Loopring here. So on the one-day chart, obviously we're up almost 30% on the day. We had a nice bounce off of support here at about $2.14. So that is a really nice support level here for Loopring. We can also see a pretty significant resistance at 280. Obviously, it pushed up really hard, really fast, so it's going to need to consolidate and calm down, but generally speaking, that does appear to be a stronger resistance there at about 280. Taking a look here at the RSI, price finally broke down below 70, right? Which is not a problem at all. You know, RSI between 50 and 70 is still satisfactory. However, when the price comes closer to 50 and it breaks below, that's a different story. That's more like a resistance level. But for this moment here, if you can kind of see, we got that bounce inadvertently right off about 213. That's pretty close to 50 on the RSI, where the price kind of came back up. So simply put, we're trending back up towards 70, which is a very, very good sign. So all bullish here on the one-day candlestick. Taking a look at the 4-hour here, we can see right away the simple moving average 50 is effectively working as a resistance level, and it's intersecting coincidentally right at the exact same point of that 280 resistance level, which is drawn out by the Fibonacci retracement line from before. And you can see it had some trouble passing that level recently on the 16th, and the price continued to disintegrate. Obviously, Bitcoin's been selling off this whole time, so bear that in mind. Loopring is susceptible to Bitcoin sell-offs. It's also susceptible to Bitcoin doing well. Because if you look back here, Bitcoin was doing quite all right back here until the 10th of November, which sent things into a tizzy, obviously, with the entire market. Okay, so just bear that in mind. You know, November 10th, and then the most recent, 4 or 5 trading days, we've seen the price just continue to decline. Now the price is on the rise now, and coincidentally, it's on the rise for Bitcoin too. So bear that in mind. If Bitcoin cannot pass 58,000, is Loopring really going to shoot to the moon tomorrow? My sentiment is no, just in the simple fact that it's followed Bitcoin fairly well in the sense of selling off when Bitcoin sells off, and not and pretty much only increasing when Bitcoin's doing well. So keep that in the forefront of your mind. That's why we always look at Bitcoin first, kind of draw analogies or it's the things that are very similar, right? They're synonymous in a lot of ways. Some coins just fly free of Bitcoin almost entirely. Loopring seems to be kind of fairly reliant, but also keep in mind too, Loopring was extremely overextended, and little hair triggers essentially cause the price to decrease. So bear that in mind too. All right, here's a cool thing. Take a look at this. RSI was down close to 30. Typically, when you see the price really close to 30, that works as a strong support level, and you'll oftentimes see the price bounce, which is exactly what we saw here. Now, had Bitcoin continued to sell off, it could have very well passed below 30, though. So there's that too. But we're back up over 50 on the RSI, which basically means that we are more bullish than bearish, reaffirming the support level here at about 247. So the price were to retrace, 247 would be a good place to buy the dip. Well, one last thing here. I think we just got a MACD convergence here. Yes, we did. That was at 1 a.m. here. That was roughly 4 hours ago. I'm fairly confident we saw the same thing from Bitcoin. We'll just go ahead and mark that there as well and see if the 1 hour chart tells us anything different. Go ahead and pull up Ichimoku cloud, and we'll see that we have a break through the cloud here, of course. And as you can see, the price action bounced up. The cloud didn't give us that buy signal that we normally like to look for, but the MACD convergence did, right? So we got a MACD convergence right here in this time frame, and then what, 2 to 4 hours later, the price broke above the cloud. This is effectively a good buy signal. So in other words, oftentimes when the price is above the cloud, it'll stay above the cloud for some time. It oftentimes works as a support level 2, moving the price action up. Now, the price being so exhausted, there is a chance the price could continue to consolidate here and bounce back up. It's hard to say specifically what it will do next, but the good news is we've got nothing but bullish indications here that LRC is back on track. All right, so whether it ramps up immediately tomorrow or it just kind of works its way up slowly to each Fibonacci retracement level and breaks each resistance level slowly, one way or the other, it's on the right track. Okay, so the likelihood of it kind of going sub $2 and what $2.47 is very low. Whether it'll break this resistance at 280 is hard to say, because again, we got the simple moving average holding the price down. We got that resistance level. It might take a little while for it to break that resistance plane. I think once it does, though, it's going to be open season. It'll continue to take off. That's kind of my anticipation there with Loopring. Again, this is all contingent on Bitcoin not dumping down to 54,000 tomorrow or throughout the weekend. I think the likelihood of that is pretty low. I still think 58,000, 56,000 is a pretty good value for Bitcoin in that sense. That makes sense, because when the price is that low, it's considered to be, oversold, and essentially it's a good price, right? So anyways, that's kind of where we're at. So just bear that in mind. Pay close attention to how Bitcoin, is recovering. If it gets stopped out at 58,000, which is effectively equivalent to 2.8 on LRC, then we know why LRC is not continuing past that. All right, let's go and take a look at the big picture and kind of see what's going on here, just as far as potential essentially for this coin and where it could be if it were to continue to break its all-time high. Because again, bear in mind, the all-time high is $3.87. Once we break that, just say hypothetically we were to break that and we were to do that in the next 2 weeks, then we'll definitely see $7.44 as a strong likely next target, right? Because that's basically the same distance. So this amount of time here, this 2.5 to 3 weeks time, where Loopring has essentially ramped up, consolidated, now it's kind of back on track, we're going to see 744 by, I would say, month end at best, but early next month, perhaps even late next month, as a more likely consideration. And I say likely just because Bitcoin needs to stabilize ASAP, and if it does, then LRC will do so as well. But good news here, let's just take one last quick look. I think we are making higher highs and higher lows. No, it's a little premature, but here's the thing. You got to bear this in mind. See, it was making lower lows, right, and lower highs. And in order for it to make higher highs and higher lows, it needs to break this plane here. So if it cannot break higher than $2.80, then we're going to be stuck in this channel here between $2.13 and $2.80. Because again, this would not be a higher high if it gets stopped out right here and comes back down. So just bear that in mind. We're not out of the woods yet. Yes, it looks nice. Yes, it looks inviting, but we need to have a little bit more confirmation before the price action continues higher. So what I'd like to see here moving forward from Loopring is to see $2.80 obviously be broken, for the price to kind of hang out above and consolidate somewhere in the 280 to 290 range, and then effectively create a support level at 280 because it's broken that and stayed above, holds the support, and then progress upwards. I'd feel more confident investing in Loopring around 290 than I would right now at 280, just based on the sheer fact that we don't have that confirmation it's moving in the right direction. So I think we ultimately want to probably take a look at Loopring again later today, see what's going on. Maybe I'll take a quick peek at it again after Bitcoin's closed on the 1-day candlestick to kind of see where we're at there, because that will help us establish the dominance of Bitcoin and how the dominance essentially is affecting the market, right? Because a lot of times when the price goes down in Bitcoin, the dominance is receding, and we're going to start seeing that increase again here soon as the price goes back up. And in turn, altcoins will slow down essentially in that moment. Anyways, it's a big ecosystem. Interesting the way that all works. So I'm still bullish on Loopring in big picture, right? So when it comes to the macro, definitely still bullish. So bear that in mind. Loopring's got some great potential. Nothing wrong with that. It's just on the short term, it's not giving me anything to be excited about, and you shouldn't be super stoked about this just yet, because obviously it hasn't and needs to, needs to take off past this point. But you can see it's just getting stopped out right where Bitcoin's getting stopped out. So hopefully it works out for you. We'll see you in the next video. Thank you so much for joining me here. Be sure to join my Patreon community before next month when the rates do increase. And of course, lock in your rate now if you can. But I do want to thank you again to my patrons for requesting that I cover this here. This is for you. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you so much for your time. We'll see you in the next video. Have a great rest of your day. Take care.